when I got the phone call in the middle of the day from him and said, there's been an accident. And that was basically all that he said. And I said, are you okay? And he said, yes, I'm okay. But he could barely speak at that point in time. He'd been awake for, I don't know, a crazy amount of time. And he'd been in hospital getting shrapnel taken out of his head and stuff like that. So his convoy was ambushed, and they were hit by an improvised explosive device. And he'll give you all the details. He would give you all the statistical details of that. But the fact was that he was okay and he was alive. The most amazing thing, which I only discovered later on, was that at exactly the same time that James was hit by the bomb, Abby actually woke up.
When I got hit by the bomb 12,000 kilometres away, Abby woke up screaming. 45 minutes of unconsolable screaming. She was with me. So when I got back and I couldn't hold a conversation for 7 weeks, I was that physically, mentally and emotionally exhausted.
We moved to Canberra and he was going to school to learn how to be promoted to be a colonel. So he considered that to be a really important time in his career because he wanted to go back to the 2nd Cavalry Regiment as the commanding officer, and in fact was being groomed to do that. The thing that there was a disconnect in him was that I told him if he went back as CEO of the 2nd Cavalry Regiment, he would be going on his own, because I wasn't prepared to go through what I'd been through anymore, and I considered that to be my right to say that.
We had been in Canberra for about 4 months. Abby was about 2, a bit over 2, and I was bathing Abby and having fun with her in the bath, which didn't really happen too much in those days because of the state that I was in. And Kirsty Earl's out dinner time, so I said to Abby, I picked up the basket and I said, can you just put your toys in the basket? And she did what any 2-year-old having fun with Dad would do, and that's fun and just take her time. I went from 0 to 1,000 degrees Celsius like that. I had to get out of the bathroom before I did something that I'd really regret. I stormed past Kirsty and I said, you go and sort that kid out. And I went, in those days we had this mirror, a full-length mirror in the bedroom, and I stood in front of it and I asked myself a couple of questions. Who are you, mate? You can take bullets, you can take bombs, you can't even bath your daughter. You're not a husband, you're not a man, you're no one. And I realised I didn't know who I was. I'd totally lost connection to myself.
The time that, for me, that it really hit home and I said, I can't put up with this anymore, was when I saw Abby up against the wall and James standing over her, yelling at her. And I don't think he ever would have hit her. He never physically was violent, but emotionally he was so angry and he yelled at her all the time. But he was standing over her and I was completely overtaken by fear that he was going to hurt her. And at that point in time I said, I can't be with you anymore. And I said to him, if you don't go, if you don't go and get help, I will leave. And thankfully, he knew that he needed to go and do something. So that started the journey of getting better for us.
It was Kirsty dragged my ass to an emotional intelligence workshop in the Sydney Masonic Centre of all places in front of 250 people. And on the way in she says, leave your emotional baggage at the door, to which I swore at her, saying that I didn't have any.
And James, who'd never admitted his condition to anybody except me, stood up. And I still remember that day so clearly. And he stood up in front of these 300 people and told his story. And he said, I'm not a father anymore. I can't be a father anymore. I don't know how to be a husband or a lover anymore. And I need help. And to me, that was one of the greatest things that he'd ever done, because he'd never admitted to anybody else that he needed help. So if I was to say that from that point everything went smoothly, I'd be lying because it didn't. But at that point, he took ownership of his condition. And when someone takes ownership of their condition, that's when they can decide to get better or not.
One of the biggest steps for a sufferer is actually putting their hand up and saying, hey, I've got an issue here. And then asking for help, especially for a man, especially for a frontline soldier, asking for help. I'm meant to be the person who fixes everything, aren't I? So that was quite large. And in the military, I also had issues with asking for help, because I'd seen in Iraq, and my issues with the system, the military system, was that it wasn't effective in helping people with post-traumatic stress. And I judged it as such. It's nothing against the amazing psychologists and psychiatrists out there doing a great job. It's my perception of what was going on. So, added to the fact that I didn't want to be seen as weak, I had a belief that not only was it weak to go to them within the system, but the system wouldn't help me anyway. And that's all about me, not about anyone else.
When he decided to leave, so 6 months after we first saw these guys speak and we'd started on this life-changing journey, he decided that he was going to leave the army. But he'd been given a job that he considered to be really important. And so he said, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to leave in 12 months. So when he left the army, he wasn't medically discharged. He left on his own terms. But he went and saw, when he had his psychiatric assessment, he went and saw the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, you suffered the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. So he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress after he'd left the military. But the psychiatrist also said, these symptoms aren't necessarily showing up for you now.
I didn't go straight up from there. I didn't come out of where I was. I went down further, because my awareness, my self-awareness had risen. My level of denial had gone away. And then I started realising all my behaviour traits that were coming out, and I started to feel gutted. It went from self-reflection into self-flagellation. So I dipped down. But I always said to Kirst, I'll always keep making a step. Now sometimes it was 2 steps forward, 5 steps backwards. But I said to her, I promise you, gorgeous, I will always keep making a step. So we kept doing that, we kept doing it. And in 18 short months, and I say short because some people never do it. In 18 short months, I was able to pull myself out and reconnect and find out who I really was. So all my work now is focused not on the mud anymore. There's enough people that are helping people in the mud. I personally believe for us to let go of the mud, we must have a reason. And that reason has to be tangible, it has to be practical, and it has to be experiential. In other words, people need to be given a taste of the life that they can have. So I love my life now. I go back to the point, I would not change a single thing that's got me here. But in this moment, I'm immersed in an amazing life.
We needed to get to a place where we understood what was important to us and what happiness actually felt like for us. And it's about this.